I'm Anita Finley, your host, and we don't know if you're watching this in the morning, the afternoon, and evening. We never know now with Zoom, but it's great. So our Zoomer Times TV works, and we get to see our beautiful authors and our other interviews. But here's Maureen Lyons, and it's actually Maureen Lyons Andrews, sorry. And this is her book that we reviewed for her in October. And it was really on the cover, and it was a wonderful book. So let's just talk a little bit. We have Dan Verity, who is our administrator. He's always there with our Zoomer Times, but because he purposely asked to be on because Maureen wrote a book called Handbook for Those Who Grieve. And it's a very important book, and Dan is grieving. And so I said, why don't you stay on, in his mother's grieving for the dad. So why don't you stay on for a minute, Dan, and talk about why you like the book.
I'd be happy to. I got my copy right here.
Oh, good.
And my dad passed away almost 2 years ago. And although, you know, it was expected in a lot of ways, what I did was I bought a copy of this book for me, and I sent one to my mom. She lives in the Tampa area. Well, she sent me a text 2 days ago. She said, I just finished reading Maureen's book, and I have to say it changed my life and my outlook on my dad's passing. And she felt so much better about a lot of things. So that made me very happy. And, you know, my mom lives in a retirement community. So sadly, because of that, she is faced with death and grieving a lot where she is. It's just a fact of life. So your book has come in handy for her.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. And in fact, I've used it several times. I had my uncle passed away last week, and I wrote a nice card to my aunt, and I used some of your examples in the book.
Marvelous. Oh, Marty and I are very happy.
Yeah. And a couple of months ago, another uncle passed, my mother's brother-in-law. And so she had me get 2 more copies of your book. I'm waiting for them to come in the mail. And we're going to send Aunt Edith one from my mom. And because my aunt, unfortunately, is having a terrible time with grief right now. And so thank you, Maureen. You've been a savior to us. And I can't say enough about your book. You know, it's not just good for the moment, but I'm finding that it's a very useful reference book.
Mm-hmm.
Just for all kinds of every possible grieving situation you can think of. You have examples and you cite references in your book, and it's just a wonderful book. I highly recommend it.
You bring up a good point. It isn't just for grieving for people. It's grieving loss of jobs. It's grieving for a lot of things, isn't it?
Pets. Pets, which in Florida, for older folks, seniors, boomers, we all have pets, and we know, sadly, we have that sort of 15 to 20 year cycle where those of us who have had pets for years, we go through it. It's just a fact of life, and so it's a repetitive thing, but it never gets easier. And so you have put some fabulous words together to say the right thing. And
you know what? I don't even have to say anything. You guys are doing all
yeah, but you're the author. I have questions for you. So Dan, thank you. You're so kind to do that with us.
My sincerest
best
pleasure.
Testimonial.
My sincerest pleasure. Honestly.
And so actually, Maureen, how does one buy your book? Let's tell everybody that.
Well, you can order it from me if you want. You can go to Amazon.
Okay, so it's Amazon Handbook for Those Who Grieve,
and also Loyola Press, the publisher. You can, email them or get on their website, and they'll send it right to you too.
Okay,
all
great.
Right.
Well, that's really a very good testimonial, and it's true. Well, you know what? Last time we talked, I don't think we talked about Marty so long. How did you know him and how did you tend to write the book with him?
Well, Marty and I were friends. Our husbands were in the same alumni group from high school. And that's how we met, through them. And then we started doing fundraisers. So Marty's wife and I, we'd be part of the committee. And then we just became friends, and it's like friends for 45, 50 years, you know. So that's how we just started it. And Marty, over just a card game, you know, I had already stopped working and volunteering. I kept working so many hours that I could not have the time to volunteer as much. So then, you know, when you leave an organization, you take all of your belongings with you. And I had a lot of totes. And there were articles, there were, you know, lending library information. There were other books that I had. And when I was a presenter at Catholic Charities or, you know, the Archdiocesan of Chicago, you know, you write things and you accumulate. So when we left, you know, the volunteering position, I took all of that with, left much of it. But then I was worried about what was I going to do with all of those totes in my basement. And so then Marty, over a card game, a canasta silly card game, he had said, Mo, don't worry about it. You bring it over to the house and we're going to write a book. And I looked at him and said, okay, let's write the book. And that's how it just started, you know. And I think from there, I mean, God love Marty. He has passed, and about 3 years ago. And so he was very instrumental. First, we read the book or wrote the book in 2003. And then around 2015, Loyola Press had asked if we would update it. So Marty was part of that procedure too, you know. And so that's how we met Marty. And Marty was very good on instrumental of getting the book written and adding all of those beautiful letters, you know, things like that. We want people that kind of just take permission and go ahead and use the letter. Just alternate your your names, the times, the places, and the situations. But at least you've got to start like permission, like I can write that. And it's very therapeutic. It was just a tool. And always, like Dan had said, we wanted a reference point of someone. Flip through it. It's not a Bible. Pick and choose, agree or not. And that's what it's about. And I am thrilled, and I'm sure Marty is thrilled too, that Dan saw the value of it, the simplicity. And so we're very happy. Thank you very much, Anita, again, for suggesting the book as a review. We've got a good review of it. And thank you. You were wonderful.
It's my pleasure, but I'm not letting you off yet. I got lots of things to ask you. So one thing that you jumped into when you said volunteer, people don't know. I mean, you could have written about cooking, but you wrote about this because you helped people all along with all this, didn't you? This whole, you know, you dealt with caregivers and grieving. Why don't you talk a little bit about your history?
You know, a little bit. I was one of many volunteers through the parish, and we lived on the south side of Chicago, St. Chris's Parish in the suburbs. And, you know, one of the priests had just had a program going through, and it was just try to get volunteers through the parish on anything, you know, come and see what we're about. And it was, I think the program was Christ Renews His Parish. And anybody could come, and there was, you know, feeding the poor and helping children with their CCD program and all of these facets that you could come and join. And I think the one that just triggered me was, geez, I just think that there's an awful lot to learn or to be said and taught to people. How can you welcome but not judge a grieving person? You know, they have to take their little stumbling stairs by themselves, but you can accompany them on their journey. And I think that's what triggered me. And I said, geez, I'd like to know more about that. And there were many volunteers. And there's still volunteers at the parish because I have moved, you know, but that's still going strong. And that's the thing that it just piqued my interest. How can I help others? So that's
amazing. And what Dan was referring to, and since people have your book in their hand right now, in the back are letters, and they're letters of suggestions of this is the problem. A lot of us will buy a sympathy card and it says, so sorry, and, maybe
Mhm.
6 words, 10 words, and you think that's enough. But these letters are really special, and they really make you feel good, and it makes the person, the recipient, feel good. And I
Yes.
think because what happens, and I think we talked about this before, when someone passes away, you walk by them, you don't know what to say, you don't want to hurt them, they'll start crying. So this is a good way to let them know you're thinking of them without
Mhm.
interfering, right?
Well, it's a little bit of when they receive that letter in the mail,
Right.
it's a release of joy. And it might release some tears, but when you mention the person's name and maybe a certain day or event or a joke that he always or she always told,
Right.
it's like, oh my gosh, this person meant a lot to somebody else. They value my loved one. And when you, number one, mention the person's name or handwrite it,
Right.
that again, that's a very simple thing to do. And people go, oh wow, yeah, they remember him or her. And so that's just a gift. And they reread those letters over and over again. So don't be afraid, go ahead. And if it brings a tear, then that's their little release for the day, to
Right.
remember. So those are good ideas to just
Right.
follow through.
Right. Dan, are you still with us? I see you. Are you trying to be on it with us, or are you not? Because I do see you with the microphone.
I'm here. I hid myself because I didn't want to interfere.
Oh. Okay. Yeah, I didn't know. So you and I've, of course, you have your 2 pets, and I have my pet, and I did lose a pet. And people, funny, they think that sometimes I call this pet, my last name, the last name of the other pet. But
Right.
I'll tell you the way I do this, and I think you've been doing this with your dad. You start to think of all the good things, all the memories, all the stuff that he had. And that's really, I know you're using his tools when you go to your mom's house, and I see certain things I never threw away of my husband. The shirt I have on now is his, and I have a lot of things on his desk. So for me, that's the way I keep those memories going. How about you?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And you mentioned a good thing. Whenever I go to my mom's, which is frequently, she always has a list of things for me to do while I'm there. And I'm certainly grateful to help out any way I can. But you're right. I use my dad's garage is fully stocked with every kind of tool you can imagine. And so it's actually fun for me to go through all his stuff and find the right thing that I need. It brings back a lot of memories for me.
Yes.
I don't know if Maureen, if you've ever done this, but I was married for 43 wonderful, wonderful years, and my husband sent me cards all the time. He put them in the bathroom when I got up. I've got boxes full of his love cards.
Oh.
So that's really special, and I haven't gotten into them now. It's been almost 3 years. I haven't gotten into them. It's not what I want to do right now. Isn't that interesting? I know they're there, but it would be stronger for me. I'm not doing that because I live with other things now, but there are a few things, a couple of pieces of artwork that he put a little label on the bottom and say something beautiful about it. And I look at it, but I don't know why I haven't gotten into all those cards. So that's interesting, isn't it?
That is, and it's everybody deals and goes at their own pace, but the value of those cards, and it's wonderful. And this man sounds terrific. I wish I could have met him,
Yeah.
To reach out and give you those little bits of happiness every day.
Right.
Oh, he's a treasure of a guy.
Yeah, I know. So I've saved the cards, and I'm not going to throw them away, but maybe there'll be a time I'll read them, but I don't really want to, because I think that would, since I'm living with his memories in our apartment, I don't think I want to do that. I don't know why. It's the first time I thought of it when we've been talking about this. But so are you, but I was going to ask you, so what about some of the memories you do have with, is it Marty? You call them, it's Martin, but Marty. Do you have memories that you Don't do anything?
Well, you know what? I've got photos out there that is not. We used to, all four of us, we would dress up for Halloween and go to parties. Now, I mean, you can envision this. I won't post it, but Marty was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz, okay? I mean, you talk about a guy that had character and funny bone.
Oh my
Right.
God.
Yeah, it's excellent. So, yeah. And you when you vision Marty, you envision happiness and fun times and love, and that's what you hang on to. And
Yes.
you don't like hang on forever, but it's
Yeah.
just always a soft tug of the heart.
Yeah.
And like you said, your letters, your Dan, your father's tools, Marty with these crazy things that we did. Oh my gosh! I mean, they're just there. And it's a beautiful thing, you know. Grief doesn't have to be terrible. What you're doing, you're growing, you're going through the journey, and now you can appreciate things like that. Before it was all too emotional. So there's an ebb and a flow in bereavement, you know. But I've got something for you. Do any of you have people that you know have COVID right now? Because that's what we're kind of dealing with in this world, too, you know?
No, I don't personally at the moment. How about you, Dan?
At the moment, no, but of course, my sister and brother-in-law had it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
back
no
in
one
the
has
beginning.
died that you know of in your own life.
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Yeah. So go ahead, tell us about that,
That's
Maureen.
important, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, that COVID thing is really around us. It was back in the spring, you know, and the whole nation was kind of shut down a lot, you know, with rules of burial and grieving and having a religious service. You couldn't even have a religious service for dying, you know, with COVID. So the people were really in a turmoil of how they can, number one, not even see the person, not be with the person that is really being ill at the moment, you know. I have to say, back in the spring, Loyola Press had asked me to write an article, and so I did, about burying someone in a pandemic. And 6 months later, my daughter just yesterday got out of the hospital, so it's good. She
Maureen.
She was in there for 20 days. Okay.
Maureen.
And it was the ambulance took her. Her husband called. She was struggling to breathe. So, I mean, it was, I'm talking about, I know of someone that has a friend that has passed, you know, but now I'm seeing it. My grandchildren have had it. It's all my daughter's house. They all sailed through it. They had a slight cough. My daughter, it was immediately get to the hospital. Nobody could go with her. There were like 4 days that we could not, there was no conversation whatsoever. You know, our lifeline was the telephone. So if ever you know of anybody going to the hospital, you give them an extension cord, their charger, and their phone. Because the doctors have no time to call you. You know, the nurses are so overworked. God love them. They're all angels them out, you know. But thank God my daughter was fine. But I'm going to tell you an emotion that I had. And I had wrote about this, you know, the burying part of people back in, April. They had asked me to write an article. And that's the perspective I did it. I called, you know, parish priests. I've called funeral directors. And I wrote the article. But now I have a vision that is totally different. When I got the phone call from my son-in-law that said the ambulance took my daughter, I had this envision of a bubble come right over me because I could not react. I was solidly frozen, and I go, I can't talk to her. I can't go to her side. I know nothing about her condition. Tell me, you know. So it's really, it was something to go through, you know. And thank God
I have
that
goosebumps sitting here, Maureen. Goosebumps sitting here, listening to you. Oh, I'm so glad you're able to share this. You're the first person who's real, other than on television. Oh
Right.
my
Yeah.
goodness. And so, and you had to explain to the children and everything.
Oh, I mean, we couldn't even go into the grandkids' house. We would bring food over and leave it on the step, call them from the drive and say, okay, here's groceries. Mom's doing fine. And I didn't know if mom was doing fine or not.
Right.
But the kids were they were 17 and 18. So they're adults, but they're still little babies in mom's eyes.
Yeah.
So the only lifeline we had eventually, after about the 5th day, she was able to text us or FaceTime us. And that's how we saw, oh my God, she's hooked up to all of these things. I mean, she was about this far away from being incubated, so, and it was tough. She came home from the hospital. Yes, she does have a blood clot in the lung. She's on blood thinners. She came home with an oxygen tank. It's going to be 3 months. It's going to be 3 months before that dissolves. So,
and how did she get it? Does she know?
No, you don't know,
Right.
Could have been from the husband's work, because they're all down with it. But now her mother-in-law, the father and her husband work together. The father got it. The father passed it to the mother. The mother now is
no.
The mother is now in. She's been in a week in the hospital. Again, the accident took her. So the circle now in November is becoming real close, people.
Right.
It's the importance of staying away. And we in our family, we've already said no Thanksgiving, Christmas. It's not going to be with everybody. We're going to go to your driveway, and we have little grandkids, so we're going to make it special for the little ones, but it's going to be outside type thing,
Right.
So we're not definitely seeing my daughter. The doctors have already said, because of our age, my husband has diabetes, you cannot be her caregiver.
No.
Yeah.
And that again is it's just another, I can't respond, So it's
oh my goodness. So your book never knew was something like this. That's another whole chapter.
Yeah.
Or more.
It's like grieving for the living.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. It's bewildered, it really is. So what can we say that helps? Oh my gosh, what we could do and what I happen to have done with our whole family, we all thought, let's treat with gift baskets to the nursing staff, the whole floor. So it was the cleaning person, the nurses, the technicians for the blood. And we gave individual sanitized snacks that they can grab and go. We did like the corner bakery, individual muffins, snacks. What else? There were books. My one daughter-in-law does Color Street, and we threw in about 20 nail sets for them. And it was like, oh my gosh, somebody's thinking of us.
Right.
And then we couldn't do anything with my daughter, but we could appreciate the people that are in there. And so that's what we kept doing, is sending just little baskets of things that they can grab and go. And we remembered the day shift and the night shift. We separated those. So everybody got a little piece,
Oh, that's great.
Dan, and that's why when I jumped in, while you were talking about going away, because that's when she said, I guess, that you have to be careful, and you can see why now. Oh my goodness, Dan.
Yeah.
Oh boy. So they say about wearing masks, even if you're in a house with someone, you know that?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what they're saying, so you can take it off for dinner, but when you're together, keep that mask on. You're protecting everybody. And it's not, it's a medical issue, it's a medical,
But
it's not
when you're having dinner, you don't have to sit at a table. You could sit far away from each other.
Sure. Yes. Yeah. You can space it out. You can think about it. There's ways that we can cope, So, but anyway, I happen to have a girlfriend that lost a very good friend, and he was in the hospital. And so the wife now is she's struggling with this COVID, because number one, she could not be there, She could not be there. She relied on the nurses to tell them that, you know, I love them, you know.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it's just earth shattering. So
I
for
can't
her to share
imagine.
for her to share her sorrow with everybody, and she's having a hard time struggling with it, you know.
Oh,
So what
sure.
is there to do? It's for us. Get that book, look at it,
Yeah.
start sending her things of encouragement, you know, because it really hurts really hard when you cannot bury somebody. There were only 10 people. You can't have a religious service. So then now you can only have 10 people. Well, I have 15 immediate family, and I come from a family of 13 children. So I've got like 45 nieces and nephews. And I can't tell my grandkids, well, you can't be part of my
Right.
10 people.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, it's
Well, let me just tell everybody, if you're watching this is very emotional. We usually our interviews are lighter, but I
No,
should have
this
known.
is-
But
we
it's
need
wonderful.
this.
But Maureen Lyons Andrews, this is her book, Handbook for Those Who Grieve. And it's a fabulous book, and she's such an expert, and she's sharing something very emotional. You go to Amazon.com and get this, or Loyola Press, Lyola Press, and you really ought to get this, especially if any of you have been affected by COVID. This
Mhm.
book is really a wonderful book it has a lot of things about grieving. Dan was saying, it's not just for people, it's if you lost your pet or even your job, or, you know, people struggle with lots of things, and it's just, and it's small, which is nice. You can grab it, put it in your purse, and hold it in your hand. It's not a big book. And so, you know, Maureen, you've certainly done the big job here today. I have to tell you, 100%, I wasn't prepared for this. So life has been precious for you with your big family already, but this
Right.
really put you into another world.
Oh, it was. I mean, you couldn't even respond. But, you know, Marty Oz and I wrote the book together, and we are just thrilled that people, in fact, I volunteer over at Food Pantry, okay? And my little supervisor, she's a young, sweet thing, but she is an orphan. Her mom and dad died within 2 weeks of each other, maybe 2 years ago. I gave her the book, I autographed it, and she's just a sweet thing. She said, you know what? I'm going to read it the week of Thanksgiving because she died on Thanksgiving. So you've got all these dates in your mind that, you know, here every Thanksgiving, she's got to remember, my parents both died within 2 weeks of each other. So she said, I'm going to sit and read this. And I thought, okay. And it's a real fast read. But when you're the one that's deciphering a sentence one by one and responding to the emotion that's coming from your heart, that's a little bit of a struggle. So you only go a little by little, you know. That's what I encourage her to do. But, you know, Dan and Anita, thank you very much for allowing this book to be out there, because it wasn't one to be made money. I did not want to make money on it. The reward is for people to read it and say, I found somebody that understands me, you know. And so that's the pleasure and the reward.
You know, Maureen, we get a lot of books that people want us to review, and most of them are pretty peppy, upbeat novels and all. When I saw this, I said, yeah, I know it's a little sad, but I think it's important. I'm so glad that we decided to do it. It just, it really was the right book, you know, here to help Dan. And of course, you know, I've talked a lot about this with people, and I'm so happy that it turned out so well for you. And now with your daughter, that made this whole thing perfect. You've been a good person, and you deserve something good to happen. And she's, you know, she'd be someone interesting to have on a show, you know, so.
Well, I tell you what, Anita, she can't talk about it. It's too emotional.
Oh, wow.
That because when you have the whole nursing staff popping into your room and flipping you over, and everybody's trying to take a chest x-ray and draw blood, and you're hearing this, you're sick, but you're hearing this of, let's take her to ICU. And ICU, the lady is saying, no, there's no room for her. Well, hurry up and
Oh.
get blood because we have to see if her organs are shutting down. You
Oh
can't.
my gosh.
Her mind was going crazy, and she
Yeah.
felt. She said, "Oh my gosh, Mom, I can't talk about it." You know, and
Oh,
the
I
nurse
could
would
understand
just
that. Oh
and
my
then
heavens.
say, "There's nothing that we can do. We can't give you a drug to help you get through. It's a virus." Every
Right.
person responds differently, and the nurses, Kimmy just kept hearing the nurses say, "Kim, you have to pray. You have to pray." And for Kim, she said, "Mom, I can't talk about it anymore. It's just too much of a PTSD, you know."
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
So
Wow.
in time she will be
Ooh.
able to, but right now she's just very thankful that she's one of them that are still struggling.
Right.
I mean, she came home with oxygen. It's gonna be forever, you know. I mean, she eventually will get off it, and we hope that everything will be fine. But once she gets off of that,
at least she made it. I'm so happy to hear that, Maureen. And
yes,
we've run out of time, and you have been one of our most valued guests. And we've done this a lot every week, but I won't forget this interview, honey. And you're
No.
going to have this interview to be able to play back to all your friends and all. Thank you, Maureen. You're just so special. Oh my gosh.
oh, thank you, Anita and Dan. I appreciate it.
Oh, our pleasure, really. To have
I know,
gotten to
Dan,
know
are you feeling like I am? I'm like all emotional.
Emotional and, but at the same time relieved because,
Yes.
this is just such a horrible, horrible time for
Yeah.
people. And
Right.
this country, we're feeling things that we never felt before. And,
Right.
and so
Terrible.
to know that we have, there are answers here to help
Yes,
us
there
through
are.
a lot of them.
Right.
And we thank you for that, Maureen.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you,
thank
Maureen.
you, Dan.
And
Good.
we'll talk to you again. Thanks so much. Have a
Okay,
very
thank
safe, happy
Yeah.
Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Be safe yourself. Thank you very much
Okay.
for the opportunity. I really appreciate it. Okay.
And we're
Bye, everybody.
thinking
This
of
is
and
something, take
praying
a
for
deep breath.
daughter.
What?
We're
Yeah.
thinking of and praying for your daughter and the rest of the family. And
Thank you. That means a lot.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's our
Bye-bye.
pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.